Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that talks with tomorrow's hoop stars. I am Rich Harrison. Thank you for joining us again. Today, I am joined by Jake Kopstick, who returns after a year absence. I believe you were in the Himalayas meditating on the top of a mountain with a yogi. And Drew, who's just done a cross-country tour, Chicago, Seattle, back to California. I don't think we can get into that right now, but Drew's been all over. So today we're starting season 4. How are you guys before I get into it?
Good to be back. Really good to be back, Drew. Good to see you. Can't wait to talk Gonzaga, which is inevitably going to come up. I knew that couldn't wait for that next thing to happen. But yeah, good to be back. Good to talk hoops. I kind of malnourished myself for like 6 months or so there working with football. Wasn't able to do this, but good to be back. Happy to talk hoops again.
Yeah, the last time I saw your face was at the Big East tournament. So yeah, it's been a while. And Drew, how are you doing?
Can't complain. The summer's starting to slowly wind down in the world of college athletics. Like Jake said, I was in football not too long ago, and that is a different world filled with, you got to be a different breed to be in the football world. I think you said it best off the air, man. You got to be built for it and you got to love it. But excited to be talking hoops. I was all over the country trying to catch summer league games on an iPhone or an iPad or in a hotel room when I could. So I got to watch as much as possible. But yeah, I'm excited to be back, excited to get season 4 underway.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Summer League, and I hope Cam Reel joins us at some point. We'll also be previewing the Olympic tournament. But before, I want to run over a couple of announcements. We sent out a couple of press releases last week. One was about season 4, of course. And 2 was, we were looking to expand our consulting business. And actually, I'm going to have to submit a new press release because since that release, we have actually, the release was basically saying we're going to expand our consulting business and expand our staff. Well, in the meantime, we added the ideal person that we were looking for our staff, and that's Guy Murrah, who's played 19 years in Europe, mostly in the Belgian league, which is now the B Next League. And then he moved into a front office role and a coaching role. And of course, what I was going to say is his role is kind of like yours, Drew, at Menlo, where he had to do coaching, scouting, general manager like decisions, and budget type of work, and basketball ops. So if the hotel reservations and stuff like that. So, and that's kind of the team. That's kind of the teams we're trying to help is by offering them relief on the scouting side, not just for international teams but also for colleges. But yeah, so we'll be announcing Guy's edition and kind of reissuing that press release a second time, or updating it, so to speak. And coming on the site soon, we're going to be doing NBA offseason grades with detailed rookie reports for each NBA team. And also, and I hope Jake is going to join me for a lot of this, we're going to be previewing the major college conferences like Jake and I did last year. But I think our first episode is about 3 weeks from now, maybe a month. And we're going to we're starting off with all the small one bid conferences, and we're going to kind of lump them into one episode. And then we're going to dive into the conferences that could get 2 or more bids. But as I said, today we're going to be doing our NBA notebook is all about Summer League, because that's basically what's going on in the NBA world. Before I go there, though, free agency is pretty much wrapped up. And if you look, I picked like my dozen or so top free agents, and the guys with stars on this list are basically restricted in some way. So, for example, Isaac Okoro of Cleveland, he's a restricted free agent. Bruno Fernando is on a non-guaranteed deal, so Atlanta soon has to make a decision on him. and so he could be a free agent rather soon. So not to rehash free agency, because we're going to be talking about that when we do our off-season grades in the coming weeks. But any of these guys that are out there, I'll just read off the top 4 or 5. Tyus Jones is out there, Luke Kennard, Isaac Okoro, Precious Achua, Markel Fultz. Amoni Bates is one of those restricted guys is out there. So you guys think free agency is almost over, but don't you think those, at least those the guys in the top of this list are going to have a full-time job somewhere?
I would imagine at some point, yes. It's surprising to see Fultz on there. I mean, as a Sixers fan who owned a couple process shirts with his face on it, it's almost like it's like kind of sad to see just how he felt. It looked like he was having a bit of a resurgence in Orlando. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't watch too much NBA, who's so locked in on the college season. But yes, shocked to see him out there. I thought somebody would at least take a flyer on him, even if it was just a 1-year, maybe a prove it deal or something. Tyus Jones surprising too. I feel like as a vet, like he could at least back somebody up and be a decent backup option.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I think we're just waiting on Luke Kennard. They just made that Zaire Williams trade so that way they could free up some money. I believe that's what the Grizzlies were doing, so they could get him extended. So exactly. I mean, maybe put an asterisk next to his name too, because I would imagine he's not a restricted, an unrestricted free agent for that much longer. But yeah, in summation, we are pretty much winding down, but still a couple of surprising names on there.
Yeah. How about your team, Golden State, Drew? They have a couple of roster spots, I believe, don't they?
I think with them, where they stand, it's basically they got to go big game hunting. Steph Curry just came out and made an announcement, I believe it was today, more or less, when asked about his future, saying like, look, I want to be here, but I need to win. I'm not going to be in the doldrums just wasting away as a playing team. And that was like to summarize what he said. So I think they're in a position where they're big game hunting. I know Lauri Markkanen's the name that they're most tied to. I do like the fit. I think he could be a great complementary piece to Steph, whereas, we've seen him in Utah now the last couple of years. He can put up the raw numbers, but it doesn't really translate to like winning at a super high level. They're a middling team at best, even when he's averaging, 25 and 8 a game. The asking price is very much so a classic Danny Ainge asking price. I mean, I'm hearing things that he wants, 4 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, Podziemski, Kuminga, and Moody. I mean, it's pretty, asinine. I do think as we get closer to the season, extension talks become more of an important piece to this conversation. Maybe Markkanen himself comes out and requests a trade. We talked about this class and the draft being down. Well, I believe this next one is loaded with talent.
So and also the fifth year ends. Yes. So not only is every super senior going to have to come out, but every senior will have to come out. So we're going to have like double the draft class.
There's so much talent. So I do think that there'll be some movement there. But I mean, we'll see what they do. There's other names that have been floated out. I know that Brandon Ingram's name has been on the trade market. I think the Warriors need a number 2 scoring option. I personally would prefer Markkanen over what else is out there, as long as the price is right. But we'll see. And then I just, to comment on these guys really quick, I totally agree. The same exact 3 names that Jake mentioned, I agree with. I think Tyus Jones is one of the most underrated kind of backup point guards. I think it's an incredibly important position in the NBA. We just saw, the Pacers with Nembhard and McConnell or give fits to the Celtics because they had guards that could come in, absorb minutes. It's a really important position. At the end of the day, you need guys who can control your offense. He has like a 7-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And I know that's a relatively straightforward, it's kind of a basic stat, but still it's like when it's that high, he's doing something right. I totally agree. Luke Kennard will be re-signing it. With shooting being the premium it is. There's no way you give up an elite shooter who's not going to completely break the bank for you. And then, I don't know how you don't take a shot on Fultz. I mean, it's funny. We're so caught up on, years later, everyone's still so worried about the yips and he basically completely busted right out of the gate. But it's like he has, barring that one ACL injury he had, turned into a serviceable NBA player. You're not a guy you're turning the reins over to, but if he's coming in your second unit, I mentioned a backup guard. I'd be happy with Fultz as my, maybe first or second guard off the bench, absorbing, 15 minutes a night, spot starter for sure. And then as a college guy, I'm always gonna have a soft spot for the classic college big. I would love to see Oscar Tshiebwe get a shot. Dude's just an absolute monster. I mean, he's pulling down 16, 17 boards in the G
Oh,
League. I'm like,
he got 20 some in a summer league.
yeah, exactly. So I just would love to see him get a shot. That's probably my, love for the college game like we all have coming out. But those, I agree with Jake. Those are probably the three guys that most notably I think will end up on rosters and will end up on rosters and actually be a factor to some degree.
Right. Just to answer my own question, Golden State actually, Lindy Waters, Guy Santos, and Quentin Post, their draft pick is unsigned, and Santos and Waters are on non-guaranteed contracts. So they actually could open up 3 roster spots. Right now they have 1 open with Post, not counting. And Waters and Santos could be, not, their contracts, they could cut them. Marketing, though, every time I hear his name, I kind of cringe because I'm thinking, isn't it time? Doesn't Utah have enough talent at this point to make a go of it? I mean, it looks like that the piece that they would get, it would be Kuminga, and is Kuminga, that much better than John Collins or Cody Williams, who they just drafted, or Taylor Hendricks, who they drafted top 10 last year. I mean, do they really want Kuminga? And I mean, and how many? Don't they have a bunch of draft picks too? I mean, and the only thing I could think of is they think they're going to need like 5 and maybe, or 5 or 6 or something to get Cooper Flag or something like that. But yeah,
I think there's enough talent in this coming draft that, look, Flag is obviously the prize, right? But I think there's enough guys in this coming draft in that top 5 or 6 spot that if you end up there, you could totally get a really solid piece that has really solid upside. I'm a big Nolan Traore fan, for example. Gonzaga was way back when recruiting him, and there's no shot he's coming to college because he's over international, just destroying it. There's so many guys. This is kind of the Ainge thing, though. I think he's almost kind of bought into his own hype of like the swindler. Like he made all those trades back in his Boston where he clearly won and stockpiled all these picks, and those picks hit, but they didn't really win until he kind of left because I think he's so much into that hoarding mode of like, I have to rip you off so thoroughly. And it's like, okay, man, but like what happens if Markkanen leaves or demands a trade and now everyone knows that? Or what happens when you get stuck having to sign him and you're just a kind of middle of the pack team and your odds, he's just good enough to where you're not going to get those perfect odds to go get a Cooper Flag. Like, do you really want to be in that situation? You're getting picks, you're getting young players that can grow with the guys you have and the guys you're about to get. Obviously, I'm a Warriors fan, so I'm just like, shut up and do the deal. I don't want to see Steph Curry angry and leave. But there's a part of me that's like at some point, is enough enough? You can't swindle everybody. At some point, like, you're not going to win every single trade so thoroughly.
The other thing is, if you're a GM and you think Cooper Flag is the next, is another Wembanyama, does it really matter how many draft picks you throw at me? I mean, what we all look for, or what all GMs should be looking for, is the next guaranteed all-star. And so if you have that on your plate already, you can throw me 10, 20 picks. I don't care. I got what I need, so I'm just going to draft that guy.
Agreed.
Now, if it was something like this year's draft where there was nobody who really stood out, then yeah, sure, I'll take a few first rounders for the first pick, no problem. But yeah. All right. So we'll move on to Summer League. And I guess my first question to you guys, and I'll start with Jake. What's your foremost thought, when you think back at Summer League, which, by the way, the Miami Heat beat Memphis in the championship with it was a great game. Went back and forth, went into overtime. And so the Heat won. But what's your foremost thought when you think of Summer League?
So I think you posed the question perfect because I wish I had a medium like this to say this every single year. So I'm a big Summer League fan, used to watch as a kid. I've been there 5 times. Great place to go network if you're in the basketball sphere. Everybody's in one spot. It's a great place to be. But because now they have the games on ESPN, they're big. Last year, Brandon Miller, Wembanyama, like it's on TV. A lot of eyes are on them. They both play bad. It's not the end of the world. every time you watch a summer league game, please take it with a grain of salt, and
Hmm.
don't go crazy. It's a summer league game. Like these guys just got drafted a week or two ago, and then they get thrown together on a team with a bunch of other guys. So they probably don't even know. They have maybe a week's worth of practices, and then they fly out to Vegas where they're stuck there for 10 days.
Unless you're one of the
distractions.
handful of teams that plays early in California or Utah.
Yeah. And even still, they get even less time to throw.
To practice. Yeah. But when they come to summer league, at least they have an idea who each other are.
Yeah. It kind of goes both ways. They have less practice time, but they get to play with each other a little bit more. But point being, take everything with a grain of salt. I went out one year. Furkan Korkmaz in his second or third year with the Sixers at 40 points. And that guy's not even in the league right now.
Right.
I went out one year, and that was it was the Lonzo Ball Jason Tatum game. He goes like 2 for 15. Everybody's Lonzo Ball, he's a bust. He plays against the Cavs, which was when they had LeBron, and they never had any picks. I think they had like Khalil Felder, and that was like the only pick they had on the team. And everybody's like, oh, Lonzo Ball, he's back. He's going to be an all-star, this and that. Take everything with a grain of salt. If you're a college basketball sicko like me, you get to see these guys in more of an NBA setting. It's more, it's a little bit more competitive with the competition is better. These are draft picks, or these are guys like a Kevin Knox who's looking to get back into the league. But take every performance with a grain of salt. Point being, you can still have fun. You can still be happy when your favorite players do well, and maybe somebody shoots the ball very well who had questions as a 3-point shooter coming out of school when they got drafted, or you see a skill translate. You see somebody like, for example, a Zach Edey or somebody like. It's a shame he didn't play that much, but you're going to see that guy test on the perimeter quite a bit. Like you get another kind of serving of seeing stuff like that.
Right.
But don't overreact. Summer league's great. Don't overreact. I'll put it that way. I love watching it, but don't overreact.
Last year, the Cleveland Cavaliers won it all, and Sam Merrill, Amoni Bates, Craig Porter, Isaiah Mobley, all had huge summer leagues, put up great numbers. Now, Porter and Merrill got some playing time, but not a ton. Bates was on a two-way. We hardly saw him at all and wasn't allowed to be in the postseason. And Mobley, same thing. He was on a two-way, so we didn't see him. So, yeah, there you go. So, I mean, the best of the best from last year basically turned out to be two-way guys and seldom used backups. I mean, like I said, Porter and Merrill got some playing time, especially when what's his face was hurt. Big scorer out of Louisville, who wanted to be traded but they signed the extension. Donovan Mitchell. Thank you guys for having my back there. All right. So, Drew, what's your foremost thought from Summer League?
Yeah, I mean, I think right away, kind of bouncing off of Jake's point, I think Summer League for me, in terms of obviously it's fun to see, these guys, like you said, get into that NBA setting, get to see them in their new threads. How do they adapt? Kind of on the fly. It is a more of a quote unquote like hooping setting. Like you're kind of just out there. You're just kind of trying to play to your strengths or showcase some skills. I think the guys that I'm more critical of, or at least expect more of, and I think it's more telling, are those guys who are in their second or third year. Guys, and we can mention like Jaime Jaquez going out there, dominating for 2 games, doing what he does. That to me is like, oh, that's a good sign. I'm checking that box like, okay, he's here, he's showing up, he's showing out. But I do agree, like you see a lot of these teams that do really well. The Warriors are a prime example. I went and saw them live when they played the Sacramento Kings in the California Classic right before I took off for Illinois. And that was a team of all kind of journeymen, guys who've been sticking around the G League. I mean, Kevin Knox is on that team. He's in year like 6. And, Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis, all kind of veterans. I think Quentin Post didn't show up until the last game or 2, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was hurt.
They were rolling through Summer League. I mean, they were beating teams by 20, 25 from the California Classic on. But it's just a style. Those are grown men who are used to G League basketball, are, kind of used to the NBA pace at a minimum. And so it's hard to balance that, the teams that are winning it all versus like the individual players. So, you don't want to put too much stock in it. I think there are things that, you should kind of look to and be like, hey, like I know I'm not a Zach Edey guy. I know the others make fun of me for it, and he has been really solid. He's been efficient. But the things I look at is like, in that first game against, I believe it was Utah, which was a great game, by the way. But like, game on the line, they put him in a high pick and roll setting. He had to bounce on the perimeter and he fouled. I forget who it was going to the basket. Free throws, game's over. And so to me, those are things that I'm kind of looking at, because if you're having issues with like that defensive at Summer League, it's probably going to transfer to the NBA. But to sit there and look at a guy who has a rough shooting performance in 6 games when he's stuck in Vegas and it's been the most whirlwind summer, of his life. I mean, some of these guys have basically been from March Madness till now have gone March Madness runs, potentially like finishing up college or graduating or doing any of that thing, getting drafted, going through that whole process, and now being in Vegas playing basketball with guys they've never met and will possibly never play with again. So it's hard to put stocking, but it's fun. I mean, it's fun to go watch Drew Timme. I got to go see him live in a Kings jersey. That was cool.
Yeah. All right. So any players, not just rookies, players who impressed you the most? I'll start with you, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tweeted this out actually. A guy that I've loved. It goes back to my love for those Miami teams last couple of years, especially when they continued to overperform. But Jordan Miller with the Clippers was absolutely tearing it up.
I thought he should have been MVP. I mean, his numbers were right up there with the MVP of the event, which was Jalen Wilson of Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, the guy slashed 55, 60, and 80 on 14, total field goal attempts a game. He did what he did at Miami, which I loved. He kind of just did a little bit of everything. I mean, obviously, averaging over 25 points a game is stellar.
It's not something he did at Miami.
That's not something he did at Miami, but he had flashes. I mean, he was a double-digit scorer. He was kind of
but he wasn't the primary.
Exactly. He was kind of like that glue guy, perimeter player, just kind of filled in all those roles. You had Wong doing the scoring. Pack was kind of more the assist guy. He was just kind of the dual of everything. And so that's what he did. He pulled down 4.5 boards a game, handed out almost 3 assists. He had about a steal and a half per game. So to see a guy that I was really high on in college, I am not saying he's going to go to the NBA and go average 28 points a game. But again, a guy who has solid positional size, can basically play on the perimeter 1 through 3. I mean, he's not really a point guard, but can guard 1 through 3 and like match up physically. To see him stuff the stat sheet, be super efficient. I mean, he was taking about 4 threes a game, which is, in my opinion, for a player like him, that's kind of right where you want him. He's not a shooter, but if he can be in that 3 to 4 game, that's what you want. He really impressed me. I was really happy to see him do his thing. And then another kind of veteran guy, or I say veteran, it's his second year, but Julian Strother, it's one of my Zags. He only played in 2 games, but absolutely torched it. Had a bit of I believe one of the games he was a little slower, but he got really going in the second and had almost 30. I think he had a wrist injury, and they just decided to shut him down.
I was just about to ask you why he isn't playing for Puerto Rico in the Olympics.
Yeah, he it wasn't super bad, but I mean, they're going to rely on him. I mean, KCP walks in free agency, and I think a guy like Strother is kind of the perfect transitionary piece. Now, he's not the defender that KCP is, but he's got the size. He has the shooting ability. He is a solid athlete. If he can get the defense to a league average level, I think he's a poor man's version of KCP at this point in his career. And that's, that worked for the Nuggets. They've been arguably the best or second best team in basketball the last 2 years. So
most people think Braun is going to get the starting assignment there, and a lot of Denver media has been highly critical that they left the job for either Strother or Braun, thinking if we're going to win an NBA title, we need somebody better in the starting lineup.
For sure. And I do agree, but I think there is an element of like, hey, the way that the new, the second apron rules and all that stuff, the way money is being spent and managed, you've got to find value on the margins. And I think both of those guys, the problem is, I think combined, they can kind of give you that KCP package. You got Braun with more of the energy, the defense, the perimeter switchability and all that. Strother gives you more of the offensive punch as more of a polished shooter, especially playing off a guy like Jokic. But I thought he played really well. And if I'm a Nuggets fan, by no means am I thinking he's going to go average 20 a game next year. But I think you're like, all right, if I can get something comparable to that and Braun is solid, put them together, you can replace the KCP production. I've got other guys, but obviously I'll let you guys go.
All right, Jake, what are you thinking?
So
who are the players that impressed you the most?
To go off something Drew said a little bit earlier, I do think it's important to say like a big summer league thing is a guy in his second or especially his third year, like needs to dominate right away, play 1 or 2 really good games, and then they're like, okay, we've seen enough. We think you can contribute. I think that's definitely important to point out. A couple people. I'm going to try to stay away from true rookies because I'll wait so we can talk about them. But one guy I've kind of had an affinity for the last couple of years. I mean, Drew, Rich, the last time I was on with you consistently talking college hoops, I think I said San Diego State in every other sentence. And one of the guys I love from that team was Keyshawn Johnson, who got himself a two-way deal with, of course, the Miami Heat. This guy screams Heat culture, screams Miami Heat. He's tough. He's physical. He plays with a lot of fire. I saw a clip of a possession. He guarded the ball. He guarded two different people on the ball from like the three-point line into the paint for like a combined 15 to 20 seconds. Like he moves very, very well. He had a couple of blocks on defending people really from the 3-point line in, but a lot of his skills are translatable. Like he rebounds well, he's big, he can move very well and stick with people. The 3-point shot has to be consistent. He did knock down a couple while he was there, but I think he just screams Heat culture to me. Also, he's a fifth-year guy, having played the 4 years at San Diego State and then his last year at Arizona. But he played very well. And again, I just think he has a lot of traits and a build that screams Heat culture to me. And then another guy I want to point out who signed a two-way deal with the Pistons, who had one really good game where he was scorching hot, and then he had a couple where he was okay, had an off shooting night in another game, was Dennis Jenkins. I think Dennis Jenkins does so much good.
He earned himself a two-way for his performance out there.
I'm a huge Dennis Jenkins fan. I think if you watch him play, I think just about everybody would be too. His shooting has come along ever since he's been in college and played for Patino. He's a really, really good distributor, a good driver. He's very fast. He's very quick, can defend the ball. He just does a lot of things that impact winning. And I think for the Pistons, who were absolutely dreadful last year, and now they do have Ron Holland, and they have Asar Thompson, and they have Marcus Sasser. Like, they have all these guys, Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. There's a logjam of guards that a two-way guy probably is not going to stick his nose and get some minutes in. So I think the situation might kind of suck for him, given all the young guards they've invested very high draft picks with on that team. But I'm a big Dennis Jenkins fan. It made me very happy to see him. I think he had 26 points. Maybe he went 4-4 from three. He just, regardless, like he had the one really good game, and he got that two-way deal from the Pistons. Yeah, like I said, I think I wish the situation was a little bit better for him. But
yeah, because he's on a team. He's on a team that craves shooting, and the one area where he needs to get better, Jenkins, is shooting. I think. I think his advantages are his energy, his effort, his defense, and his speed, and his ability to blow by you. But as you said, Detroit's got a million of those drivers, starting with Jaden Ivey, who has trouble getting playing time.
Yeah.
So if he's going to have trouble getting playing time, yeah, I agree. What I find interesting about Miami, I'm changing topics here, getting off the Pistons, but Miami, if you look at the guys that they cut, they're fringe players. They end up on other teams. Maybe they end up on other teams as fringe players, two-way guys. But Orlando Robinson, for example, a guy we had on the show back in the day, he was cut. He had a great summer league, ends up on Sacramento, signed him to – actually, it's not a two-way. I don't know the details of the contract. It's probably one of those partially guaranteed deals, and fully guaranteed if you make the roster, blah, blah, blah. But I just it's amazing to me how many players, Alondas Williams played so great for the Heat. Pella Larson. Pella Larson. What's that?
Oh, I said Alondas Williams had that dunk that just.
Oh yeah, that dunk where he brought his arm back like almost parallel with his shoulders.
Pelle Larson was another guy on my list too. I never mentioned.
Yeah, and I've never been a huge Pelle Larson fan, not because he's an analytic darling, but the problem I have with Larson is he never comes through in tight spots against really good competition. He always disappeared for Arizona when they really needed him. And and this may be a plus. The one thing that I thought might be advantageous to Larson is he already knows how to be the third or fourth option, because he's not going to get any better than that in the NBA. And he's not even going to be the third option. Never. He's going to be the type of guy who comes in, and if he plays good enough defense, and if you leave him open, he's going to hurt you. That's what his job's going to be. But all right, so let's move on to rookies. And you don't have to necessarily say. I wanted to get your thoughts on any rookies that stood out to you, maybe positive, negatively, and I'll start with you, Drew.
Yeah, I mean,
and I mean true rookies.
Yeah, the big one, and from a positive standpoint that I know everybody's talking about, and I laughed because I actually saw something on Twitter, and it was a guy saying, my favorite part about Summer League is all these non-college fans falling in love with the guys we watched all year. The big one is Reed Sheppard. You can't really ignore him. I mean, I know it's the cop-out, it's the easy answer, but I mean, he did literally everything he did at Kentucky on an amplified stage because he got to kind of be more of the guy, and he didn't have that. Everyone laughs at Calipari, his 18% usage percentage and all that stuff. But it's like, you look at him and you're like, can he defend? Yeah, he's not going to maybe slap the floor and pick up 94 feet, but what does he do? Crafty plays, stealing, swiping. It just makes all the right defensive reads in a system. Can he shoot the ball? We know he can shoot the ball. He had that one game, I think it was his last game, where he started off 0 for 5 and then hit his next 9 shots or something like that. I mean, the guy's just a basketball player. Like Jake said, it's Summer League. You don't want to go victory lapping or get too low on a guy from performance. But it was really nice to see that with the ball in his hands, with the ball out of his hands, he did everything he did at Kentucky on the same stage. He answered, for the time being, probably the questions people might have had just looking at him and wondering, hey, like in a bigger role, can he maintain the efficiency? Can he do all those things? He did. He was awesome. I
especially liked his playmaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Two things that concerned me coming in about him was he's an efficient passer, but he really doesn't really put players in position to make an easy basket. I saw him doing that in Summer League.
Some of those pocket passes he was throwing, when you get 2 feet into the paint or right at the free throw line, and some of those pocket passes, which were just, no look, bounce, they were beautiful.
Right.
He was awesome. Going to another guy that are kind of on the flip of the spectrum who didn't get, he wasn't a high draft pick. He wasn't drafted at all. It was Trey Alexander, I thought, going back to
you stole my thunder there.
Super smooth. He looked exactly like the player we saw at Creighton, who was just super comfortable and kind of facilitating and running a team and just, he wasn't putting up huge assist totals, but he was about 3 a game, super efficient from the floor, picking his spots. He looked like the point guard for a team that we all thought had Elite 8 upside, and that's exactly what he was. He was super smooth, especially
I think he may. I know
he's right into that role.
I know he's on a 2-way, but I think he might be a sleeper
for sure
to fill up some of that void left by KCP.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess the last positive guy I'll talk about is, another kind of West Coast guy I saw a lot of was Tristan Da Silva.
I thought he another was guy really on my list.
Sorry, Rich. Great minds think alike. I just love the do-it-all efficiency. I know, again, you're going to look at the 18 points a game almost, but when you slash 60, almost 60 and 100% from the line, playing damn near 30 minutes a game, that has to be commended. But again, he came out and showed that there was more to his game. What I liked most about him, and I'm sure we all did, was just kind of that he looked like he had that 3-level scoring upside. He could shoot the ball. He had the size to get to the rim, play in the mid-range if he had to, and he did all that. Still pulled down 5 boards, still handed out 3 assists, had about a steal and a half, and he didn't really turn the ball over. He averaged less, I think, about a steal or a turnover a game. So he was awesome. I know there's some negative rookies. I'll just say Sarr was awful. I don't think we need to talk about it. That was terrible.
He topped my list of the biggest.
I'll let you talk about him because I don't even. I'm going to get sick talking about the performances. I've never seen a guy play so bad he had to change his number after one game. I'll just leave it at that.
Jake, I'm gonna let you go, or maybe I should go because I'm running out of players soon. So, another player, that first of all, on Trey Alexander, he was one of the highest guys, if not the highest guy on our draft board that didn't get drafted. So not a surprise to me that he was one of the top performing rookies in summer league. One that I thought was drafted maybe a tad early, but not too early, was Jalen Tyson out of Cal. And I thought he did very much like De Silva, did a lot of different things, contributed in a lot of different ways, efficient. So I was pleased with what I saw with him. I know Ron Holland didn't shoot the ball well, but I think everything else showed up. And I think Detroit, I mean, that team needs shooting, and they have a ton of guys who can't shoot, and they added another in Holland. But if some of them ever develop, I mean, Holland has all the athleticism and length and size you want. So that was evident. But speaking about the Washington guys, I mean, I assume, when people came into Summer League, they were expecting Sarr to be the star and Bub Carrington to be the second, the Robin to Batman. And it was the other way around. Carrington looked great. He made the all Summer League team. And I was very impressed with Bub Carrington. He's somebody that I slowly warmed up to over the year, and by the time the draft, we had him as a top 25 guy. Not as high as where he went, but still in the general area. Sarr, who we had number 2 on his board, what disappointed me the most, I don't know if either of you guys saw my scouting notes on Sarr that I put up before the draft. And, I could basically stick with those notes, and they were highly critical. And what I said about the guy was, this is a guy who thinks he's Kevin Durant, but he's not. He tries to play like Kevin Durant, but he's not. He's not even close. But what worse about Sarr disturbed me is I, at times, didn't see the effort. And that's something you want to talk about, something in Summer League. The one thing you can't do unless you already have money, like he's already been signed, he's got the money coming in. But if you're one of these fringe guys, even a fringe rookie like Trey Alexander or something coming in, the one thing you can't do is, maybe you can go 0 for 7 from 3. But the one thing you can't do is not play with effort. So if Sarr was like one of these borderline guys who was undrafted, he would not get a training camp invite the way he played. And mostly what I went against him, in the scouting report is just how much he tries to play like a guard. A 7-foot guy tries to play like a guard, and he just doesn't have the handle. He just doesn't have the moves. He just doesn't have the speed, and he seems clueless about how to use his size to his advantage. Of course, I also had him number 2 on our draft board, thinking the guy's just turned 19. The guy's 7 foot. He's very skilled. You could see that. But what you want to do is you want to see him focus on making layups and dunks first. Do those things first, and then you can do, the between the legs and step backs and all that good stuff. I'm concerned about Sarr, but as Jake said, temper your expectations and temper your emotions when watching Summer League. So, and I agree. So I'm not writing Sarr off, but man, you gotta play with effort. That is concerning. All right, Jake, I gonna let you talk about any
and with an 0 for 15 game too. I mean, it's definitely like I think the Lonzo Ball game I referenced, I think he was 2 for 15 and like 0 for 12.
Lonzo Ball's a guard,
but at least
he's
you
not
saw a couple
7
go
foot
through
tall.
Yeah, for an 0 for 15 or 0 for 12 game, whatever it was, really made you, blink and double check yourself. 2 rookies I'll talk about. I'm going to mention one. I wanted to use Bub Carrington, but you stole it from me, Rich. But he was one of the stars. I mean, I think he nearly had a triple-double in one of his first 2 games. I mean, right off the bat was incredible. Before I get to talking about the hometown Sixers, which I was the most tapped into, how about Khalil Ware? I know I already mentioned a key guy. How about Khalil Ware played very,
forgot
very
to
well
mention him. Yeah,
he not only for a massive dude was he contesting and making things hard at the rim, like you knew he was supposed to. Knocked down a couple threes as well.
Oh yeah, he has that ability.
To see him do that, a guy who can defend the rim like that and could potentially. I mean, the shot looks pretty good in my opinion. To knock down some threes.
Delaware, excuse me, is 1 year older than Sarr. Now think about that. 1 year older. Now, of course, we were all writing Ware off last year for what? Effort. Effort. And when he went to Indiana, he turned that around. And then he became nearly a lottery pick. So on one hand, it's good news for Sarr that Ware has performed so well. They're very similarly built. I'd say Sarr is probably a little skinnier, string bean like, but at the same time, God damn it, Sarr should be watching how Ware plays. Make best use of your size, and then do the fancy stuff as icing on the cake.
Right.
Sorry.
And also with Khalil Ware,
about Sarr gets me all.
But Khalil Ware is also going to a spot with the Heat where that effort's going to be demanded from every day. You're absolutely right. Like, it wasn't like you're seeing now how good of a player he could be. He just wasn't showing that all the time at Oregon. That's what was so frustrating. Mike Woodson got it out of him. He's now going to a franchise in the Heat that's going to demand that from him every day and hold him accountable for that, which is huge. But across a bunch of different facets, he played very well defensively, and then the three ball for a guy who can defend the rim and is that large and that long with the wingspan is huge. I want to touch on Jared McCain though. I thought Jared McCain played very well. You knew the shooting was going to be there in transition. That, as Bill Rafferty says, if you watch a Fox broadcast for Big East, when he says get those puppies organized and transition, like he gets his feet set very quickly. He runs to the wing. He gets to spots. And just if he can come off the bench for the Sixers and just knock down shots, that's something that they have not had off the bench really in the past during these process years. So obviously, you knew about him being such a great shooter, but I think also you saw some playmaking and you saw some finishing at the rim for a small guy too. I think there's a lot to be encouraged about with Jared McCain. I think contribute for the Sixers right away. And then I also want to touch on Adem Bona. I'm a huge Adem Bona fan. I was very happy when they drafted him. He's a faster, more athletic, and a way cheaper Paul Reed. That's what I was telling my friends. And he might play harder than Paul Reed too. Paul Reed's hallmark was how hard he played. Adem Bona is a psycho, and I love it. And he might play. I
think Bona's more gifted athletically.
Oh yeah, he's a way, way better vertical and lateral athlete than and a better defender as well with the block numbers that as his athletic tools allow him to do. But right away, this is a guy that could probably be the third center on the Sixers. They could probably give a standard second round deal too. I think what worries me is obviously he fouled a lot. And you saw, I think Ricky Council in one of the Utah games, had to go up to him where Jeff Dowd and RJ Hampton, somebody just put their hands up. It's like, you got to go vertical, man. You're fouling too much coming down here. He's got to work on staying vertical and not fouling as much. Now, there's a couple of ways you can look at that. If he's a third string center for the Sixers, not a big deal. During the regular season, won't be playing a ton of minutes. But if history tells us anything, Joel Embiid's going to get hurt. Joel Embiid might miss 15 to 25 games. And if he has to slide in and be the second center right away, well, it puts you in a bit of a bind with Drummond there if you're going to foul that much and force him to be on the floor. So just want to throw that out there. But I did think the Sixers, the two rookies that they had, played well. And I think you can be excited about them joining an exciting team for the upcoming year.
I had, on our draft board, I had Bona rated ahead of McCain. So when the Sixers took McCain at 16, I was disappointed. I didn't think he was deserving of that spot. And then when they got Bona in 40-something, I think 42, I was elated because I thought he was better than his draft spot. Yeah, and I stand by where I had these guys ranked. I'm not sure which games you watch McCain because Sixers played more games than most teams, but ultimately, especially down the stretch in those final summer league games, he really did not shoot the ball well. So his numbers really weren't good, and I'm concerned about how much of an impact he's gonna really be able to have this season. So, yeah.
That was more so the Utah. I saw he shot the ball well in the Utah games. Those first
Okay.
couple he had to
All right.
start. Yeah.
You got ahead of me there. I didn't really watch the Utah game. So, all right. So, last question before we close the notebook and our summer league talk. Anything about the format, the way the summer league structured that you would change? I'll start with you, Jake.
Well, first and foremost, I can get this out there. Enough with the rings and the championship trophy. I mean, this is a team that was thrown together in like a week or two, and they played maybe 7 or 8 games together, and we're giving rings and a trophy out. For what?
Yeah.
For what? What are we doing? And I personally would like them to just go back to there's not really a playoffs or a championship. I think I'd get more enjoyment out of it if maybe this is just a sicko of me because, toward the end, if you have guys maybe you're hurt and they're like, okay, well, even if your ankle's bothering you a little bit, we're going to sit you out. And maybe the product deteriorates a little bit when the stars of tomorrow that you think are going to be playing aren't there. But I think it would probably just benefit coaches, players, everybody involved if they just played 8 games and then on the very last day of summer you didn't just have 1 or 2 games. Maybe that's just the boomer in me being like, just give me more basketball. I don't care about the competition part of it.
Right.
But I just think like if you gave me more basketball for every team, like I'd be okay with that. Like I'll watch Summer League just for the fact I get to watch these guys. I'm not going to be like, oh, the championship is on tonight. Like I have to be tuned in for that.
Right.
But yeah, maybe that's just the boomer me. I think it's fine. I think the 10 fouls is fine. Like keep guys in. Don't be like, oh, we have to sit Khalil Ware or we have to sit a promising rookie that people came to see because he's in foul trouble in a Summer League game. I think that's fine. But yeah, that's probably the biggest gripe for me. We don't need trophies. Rings for what? Rings for what?
Yeah, I know.
What
I got you there. I mean, yeah, most people are just tuning in to not see who wins, but just to see how the individual players are doing. So I think at least, but I do have a problem with the 10 foul rule, and I'll tell you why. Because I saw so many of these games turn into unbelievably extended free throw shooting contests, and the one thing that basketball needs to work on is minimizing free throws. And nobody wants to watch a free throw shooting contest. And I felt like too many of these games became free throw shooting contests because the players weren't playing they weren't tuned in to playing without fouling. They also weren't getting taught how to play. I mean, they had no reason to play without fouling. And the refs at the same time, they weren't going to swallow the whistles because who cares? Because I can give out 10 fouls and, I can give out 9 fouls to a guy and he's still going to be playing. So that's where I think where it goes wrong. I think in a 40-minute game, you want to make it 7 fouls. Okay. But you got to put some pressure on the referees to swallow the whistle. You got to put some pressure on the players to play because that's what they're going to have to do in the league. They're going to have to play without fouling. Well, maybe they're not if they're only going to play 5 minutes a game, but you know what I'm saying. Drew, what are your thoughts about format changes to Summer League?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only big one is I'm with Jake. I just don't really the whole playoff thing. I'd rather see Reed Shepherd play another 2 games than watch the Miami Heat team that's potentially going to start sitting their top guys too because they're playing more games and I always love a soft spot for those guys who keep fighting for the dream, right? Like I said, the Warriors team this year outside of Pajemski and Trace were completely full of guys who've been G League journeymen and guys who've been fighting just to get a 2-way deal. So like you always have a soft spot for that. And it's kind of cool to see guys, like, man, I remember you when you played at, whatever state or whatever university 6 years ago and you're still fighting it. But everything doesn't need to be formatted in that sense. Like you said, everyone gets 8 games. Hell, I mean, I'd be more down if you wanted to do like an all-star game of like, hey, we take the top performers of
Oh,
summer league and play a game. Like, I think that could be kind of fun. Like, I don't know. Like, I'd be more in tune with that.
that actually would be interesting.
Like if you're going to do a first and second team, maybe do like an all-star game and you have, all these guys, because for some of them that might be the peak. Like, how many guys have we seen play well in summer league and that's it, and then they end up, relegated to the 10th guy on the bench or right back to the G League, and this is kind of the cycle of their career, which I respect. But yeah, I think the championship format and rings, it almost kind of gives me that like in-season tournament ick of like, what are we doing, man? Like, I compete because it's the right thing to do. Compete because you're fighting for a job. Compete because it's an 8-game sample size, but it's, I don't know. That's probably my biggest gripe. I do get the point on the fouls. Like, I go back and forth. I agree that like, you're not getting probably the premier refs anyways and the premier officiating. So like if you were to keep it more traditional in line with, standard rules, you probably would have a couple games get out of hand in terms of fouls. But I do, I was at a game live and you could kind of see the coaches would kind of like, hey, it's okay, foul if you need to because you got 9 more, instead of there being that strategy of, hey, I can't have you pick up this dumb foul or whatever. Like, there were moments where you could kind of see it happen where it's like a guy would kind of get beat off the dribbling, just hack him, or there'd be a take foul for no reason just because they're like, I can afford to do it. So I don't really have any issues. I mean, it's still solid amount of basketball. I got to see the guys I wanted to see play. If they keep it the same, I won't have any issues. But, I think the suggestions you guys made are more than valid.
Okay. All right. So our next segment, and you were talking about guys who scrap and fight. Our next segment is going to be our interview with Enrique Freeman, a senior out of Akron who was drafted by the Pacers. And we're going to talk to Enrique about Summer League and everything else, past, present, and future. Today, our special guest is Enrique Freeman, who was selected in the second round of the 2024 NBA draft by the Indiana Pacers, and he just finished playing in Summer League. Prior to the draft, Enrique played 5 years at Akron in the Mid-American Conference. This past season, he was not only the conference MVP, but also an all-defensive selection and the MAC Tourney MVP, leading the Zips to a berth in the NCAA Tournament. Enrique finished ranked in the top 5 of the MAC for points per game at 18.6, rebounds per game at 12.9, which led the country, blocks per game at 1.7, field goal percentage at 58.4, player efficiency rating, which was 7th in the country, win shares, which was 4th in the country, and he had a plus minus of 8.3, which I think was best in the MAC. I also think he led the country in double doubles. Did you not?
Say it again.
I think you also led the country in double doubles. Did you not?
I did. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So impressive statistics, and you have a truly special story, and I'm really happy to have you on the show. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I love that introduction. Thank you.
First off, where are you right
Right
now?
now, I just got back to Akron, so I'm in Akron right now for a little bit.
Okay.
And I go to Cleveland because Cleveland's my home. So like Akron,
All right. Well, that leads me into my next question. So I knew you were a Cleveland native. You went to Akron, and the MAC features your school, Ohio, Kent State, Toledo. Am I forgetting any Ohio schools?
No, I think that's all.
Okay. But of those teams, who is the Zips' biggest rival? What school do Akron folks really hate?
Oh, this is an easy question.
Okay.
I think, our rivalry against Kent is definitely, one of our biggest games in the season. We're only 40 minutes away from each other. So
Okay.
it's just that, homeland fight, I think the rivalry's been going on for years. And, at my tenure here at Akron, every, championship we've won, we were always playing our rival. We were always playing Kent to make it. So it's been pretty cool.
Okay. I was just curious because, I mean, the MAC is just so, except for Buffalo, they're all like really close together. And I was wondering how that all worked out. All right. So 2023 was quite the journey for you. But your basketball story really goes all the way back to your freshman year at Akron. Initially, you didn't go to Akron to play basketball. Could you talk about how that all played out?
Yeah, so I went to school in Cleveland called St. Martin, and they offered two kids at our school, a full ride scholarship to University of Akron through this company called PCC, and and I was one of the kids who won the scholarship to go to the university, for my academics and well standing in high school. Then I went to university around like 6'4", my freshman year of college, and then by my sophomore year, I ended up trying out for the team. But even though I wasn't recruited or out of high school, I still, played basketball and hooped at the rec and, stayed
Right.
active on campus and stuff like that. So
So you were 6'4" when you went your freshman year?
yeah, and then by the end of my freshman year, I was 6'8". So I grew
Okay.
that also my freshman year of college as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So so you just tried out. No one just said, "Hey, we got to get this guy on the team." You just tried out on you just thinking you were pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, so the team always hosts yearly walk-on tryouts. So I knew one of the managers and they were able to give me, all the information to try out. And also like I wasn't, playing around everyone there, you're not that bad if you're, playing with some of the guys. So I was playing in the rec and stuff, and a lot of people ask me like, "You're on the team?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." I'm not. And then the next year, they ended up seeing me on the team, so that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, they host an annual walk-on tryout, and that year I just decided to, put in my paperwork, try out, and then from there, I think that's when a lot of people on the team were like, "Yo, this kid's good, he has potential," and then they started really. I think that's when they started really like believing I can play at that level too.
Right. So uh so you did the scholarship you received initially, was that a full ride for all 4 years?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. So they actually should have paid you
Right.
because you already had a scholarship.
Yeah.
All right. So I first noticed you in 2021.
Mhm.
I think that was the first year. I think that was your junior year, I
Yep.
think. And you averaged double figures that year. And going into this past season, and ever since then, once you're on my draft board, you're on there, and then I, make sure to keep on checking in. And so going into this past season, before I saw you play this season, I honestly didn't think you were going to be drafted. I knew you were good, but I didn't think you were going to be drafted. But I was
Mhm.
really surprised to see your game this year on both sides of the ball. I mean, you shot more effectively from deep. You took more outside shots. You were really good in the pick and roll. You shot better from the foul line, and you became more of a rim protector. What do you credit for those improvements?
I credit the development here at Akron. I really that the year before this last season, I had, a few workouts, but it really gave me perspective on things that I need to add or like maneuver in my game. So I decided, I had the privilege with our coaches and some of our GAs here on staff, what I wanted to attack and what I wanted to get better at. So, the credit goes to everyone who's helped me, but I put in a lot of hard work to add those things to my game, shooting better, getting more shots up, being able to, play on the perimeter more, switching on defense, like you're saying, on both ends of the floor. So that's kind of where it started. And I think that really put me at a good advantage going into this year, especially in the draft process.
Right, right. And I would think your draft stock even went up higher. Not so much for me because I don't put a lot of stock in one or two games, but I think for general public, when you put up 21 points and 14 rebounds against Creighton in March Madness,
Yeah.
but from there, that was just the start. So there you go, and you knock it out at the Portsmouth Invitational, which is a combine,
Yeah.
and which earned you an invite to the G League Elite Camp. And there you knock it out, which earned you an invite to the NBA Combine. And there you knock it out again. So, when you're going through all this, and you tested out, not only did you stand out on the floor, you tested it out well athletically for someone as big as you.
Right.
So from March Madness through the combine, what's going through your mind? Did it feel somewhat surreal that you kept on getting an invite to the next level?
Yeah, I just it felt surreal, and it just felt like, to me, it feels like a video game. Like you play these video games, you do the My Career, you're like, this is you where you start, this is where you're gonna have to. So that's what it kind of felt like, but it did feel surreal. A lot of it too was a lot of um just I feel like one thing I feel like a lot of people don't understand about the game is like the IQ aspect of it and trying to
Hmm.
see the score. Like I'm playing in these tournaments, playing in these combines with, great other great guys as me. And like how do we mesh these guys together? How do we, find ways for all of us to, score and be great? So I think that's helped me throughout each one of these tournaments, and then just, playing as hard as I can. I think that's the one thing I try to do every time I step on the floor is, play really hard. Um, but it definitely has been super surreal throughout each one, especially like the elite camp, then getting called to the combine. It's like, wow. Like
Yeah. Did they do I know in past years they do the thing where they knock on your door and they have a camera there and
yeah,
did they do that this year?
yeah, they did. They did. It was actually Mother's Day. So I was just,
Ah,
I was on the phone, talking to my mom and my family, and late night FaceTime call, talking to everyone, and then they just knocked on my door, and it actually was like I had no idea. Like I thought I was getting ready to go home. I'm ready to
Oh,
go, but I was in Chicago for a long time, so that's a good thing.
yeah, very good thing. So your journey continued when the Pacers selected you, 50th in the draft. When did you know that you were going to be drafted?
When they called my name,
When they called your name, so it
that's
was
exactly when I knew.
okay. And I know you were happy, but could you just describe where you were and what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I just had a little small gathering with my family and like my close people in Akron, like my coach and stuff. And so I just had a few people in the room, and we were watching the whole draft. We watched the night before, watched everything. Who knows what could happen. So we
Right,
were just excited for everything, and that felt like a dream come true. Just hearing your name get called, and like, okay, well, there's what you've been working so hard for is now in your realms, in your reach.
right. Um, so you just finished a 5-game stint in summer league. You
Yeah.
shot 61% from the floor, but you did struggle from deep at free throw line. Once again, small sample. I don't put much stock in whether you do great or awful in summer league, and you also don't even have very little experience with your teammates. So coming away from summer league, what were you pleased with, and where did you think you needed to improve?
I was definitely pleased with my entire game. I think, that's my first time being able to play against other players who played in the league, and, you can assess yourself. I think there's a lot of things I did good, spacing wise, running the floor, trying to play. The Pacers love to play fast, so playing within the pace of our offense and defense. And, I think for me too, on the defensive end, showing, teams the Pacers I'm able to switch 1 through 5 and see how that looks, and keeping people in front. I think that's huge in the NBA because it's so like ISO one-on-one game.
Right.
Uh, so I think I did that really well. I think I was able to, shoot. I shot it well. I struggled a little bit, but I think ways I can improve on is just totally like learning the game, the pace. It's faster. It's you got to see things quicker. You have to, sometimes you got to kind of read it better. I think that's ways I could definitely improve on, and just like the physicality of it as well. You come from college like, okay, it's physical, but now it's like, okay, this is seriously physical. Guys are gonna, push you and stuff like that, which you kind of expect. But those are the two things I would say I can improve on there.
Right. And you also have to adjust to the size. I mean, everybody's bigger,
Yeah.
too. So,
Bigger or
um,
the same, bigger or the same size.
right. So your whole college career was you mostly filled the role of a big,
Yeah,
but your developing skill set says you can be more than that.
yeah.
Um, Ultimately, what do you see your role in the NBA? What do you see yourself doing? What kind of player is there a particular player like you look at and say, I could be just like him?
Yeah, I think that I don't think there's any player that I look at that could be like me. I just think I, try to take a lot from each player. Like for example, like I'm a undersized big, so watching Draymond Green, he had shooters around him. He's able to, see the floor differently and, able to facilitate the ball to shooters, as a big and also be able to roll and score. Obviously, I think I would shoot better, but
Right.
and then adding like the shooting part of it, from other guys, a lot of pick and pop guys. I can't think of any right now, but I try to take that from each and every player to add to my game. So, but in the league, I definitely see myself, 4-3. I definitely see myself as a solid 4. I don't see myself as a 5, even though I'm really good at that role.
Right.
I definitely see myself as a 4 and being able to, guard multiple positions, playing on the perimeter, defending on the perimeter, and just, that's really where I see myself right now. And then I definitely have the skill sets and, the ability, as everyone's seen in the combine too, to be a 3, to be a, more maneuver guy who can handle it and different things. But also I think throughout this journey, it's been really good to stay true to the things I'm good at, defense and rebounding and keeping that intact, but also being able to keep that but add more. So that's been my goal and my mindset throughout this entire process. With changing my game, adding to my game, and different things.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes some kids make at the summer league. They try to be more than what they are, or even at the combines.
Yeah.
And also, earlier in the show, we were talking about, what we look for in summer league. And we all agreed, you can pretty much throw the stats out the window. But the one thing you have to see is effort.
Yeah.
And you have that. So, that was great to see. And you're right, you do fit in with the Pacers in terms of style. I mean, you were one of the best in the country this year in transition, and your pick and pop game, your cut game is all there. So yeah. Perhaps more so than any other team going into the draft, before we knew who was going to take who, the Pacers came in with a really full roster, guys that were already under contract. And if my count's correct, after signing James Johnson last week, they only have one regular roster spot open, and that could be filled by Kendall Brown, depending on what they do with his non-guaranteed contract.
Right.
And then they have Quentin Jackson and Oscar Shigwe on. They have qualifying offers sent out to them for the two-way contracts. Now they could rescind those. That's not guaranteed. But if worst case scenario, they keep Kendall Brown, they keep Jackson, they keep Shigwe, there's only going to be one spot, and you and fellow draft pick Tristan Newton remain unsigned. So what is the status of your contract situation right now, and what's your best guess on how it's going to play out?
Well, I just right now, I'm in a good position. I don't know how much I really can talk about all these contracts while they're still in negotiation, but I'm in good position, to definitely, get a two-way or get a roster spot. So I'm in the mix for possibly both.
Mm-hmm.
And I just waiting to hear more, and hoping that my performance and things I've done well and throughout the summer league and meeting Indiana as the front office and everyone, that they believe in my game and I'm able to be a roster spot, or even if I am a two-way, I'm happy with both, and I'm just willing to learn and try to develop my game as best as I can to fit in and definitely get a contract. So that's where I'm at with it, kind of.
So you're confident about it. For the sake of argument, I know most guys in this situation don't consider playing internationally, but has that been talked about, just going over there for a year? Because if you're on a standard G League contract, you can make more money in Europe. You could, not everybody, but you could.
Right.
But hasn't been discussed at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, most guys say they rather play, not worry about the money right now, play in the G League and be as close as possible to their team. So
Yeah.
All right. I want to skip back to Summer League. I overlooked one of the questions I had scribbled down here, and I'm sure that Summer League was a unique experience.
Yes.
Had you ever been to Vegas before, first of all?
So we did go one time. We Akron played UNLV last year.
Ah,
We went
okay.
for a weekend. Yeah.
Okay. So what were some of the more interesting and surprising things that happened to you there on and off the court that you could talk about?
Uh, the Vegas is just a fast-paced city. I got to go to one of the Circus Soleils, on our last day off, so that was pretty cool seeing the Michael Jackson show with some family and my girlfriend. Um, but it's been really surreal, you see all these. I feel like as a fan of basketball, you look at all these players and they're there. So then when you're there playing, it's like those are not just, you're not just fanning over them. Those are your peers now, and you kind of gotta, get that level of respect, basketball wise. But that's probably been the coolest part, seeing everybody being around, the league and also like we did the rookie transition program there with the National Basketball Players Association. So that was pretty cool. Learning about, how it can take care of ourselves, our mental health, and
Manage
different
your
things like
manage
that.
your money and stuff
Managing
too.
our money, yes. So we got some very helpful tools there, and so it's been really cool experience.
All
So
right. Who was the person that you ran into that maybe you didn't expect to run into? You're just like, oh my God, there he is.
uh,
Or it could be, oh my God, there she is.
I think the coolest thing though in Vegas was we got to see the USA team play
Ah,
versus Canada.
right.
The Pacers, all the guys on the Pacers, we showed up to, support Halliburton, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. It's like one of the greatest teams assembled. So it's
Right.
like that was pretty cool. That was
Yeah.
probably really
I,
like, whoa,
I can
yeah.
imagine. I can imagine. That would have been that'd been a treat. All right. So I want to got two more questions for you, then I'll let you go. But looking back at 2023, an MVP season in the MAC, a trip to March Madness, stellar performances in three different combines, the draft, and you're drafted, and now Summer League. That's quite the journey for someone who came to a school on an academic scholarship. So has it sunk in yet what you've accomplished? And are you a bit tired?
Well, I try not to get tired, so yeah, I'm not that tired, but it's definitely it hasn't really sunk in yet. If I'm being truly honest, it still feels like I still have a lot more to go. But it's just sometimes I just think about it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is all happening. But I definitely say, the craziest part about all of this has been the pace. Being in everything I've been, I've been away from home, everything I'm in hotel rooms and flights. So I think the pace of this has definitely been something I've had to adjust to, especially going to Vegas. I've been on the East Coast all my life, and now I'm 3 hours behind in my life. So like
Right.
adjusting to the time zone and all these other factors. But even though all that's happening, you still have the opportunity to play basketball and some of the game you love. So it's all worth it at the end of the day.
Do you get a little break now?
Yes, I get a little bit of a break now. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a week, 2 weeks?
yeah, yeah.
Is it
I,
gonna
I try not to get tired, but my body does need rest.
No, but I'm saying, do you get to stay at home for like a week or two now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry. I keep on getting calls.
No,
Usually no one ever calls me, and then no one's called me all day, and now I'm interviewing you and I get two calls. All right, here's the last question. You were on an academic scholarship. You're obviously a bright guy. What did you study at Akron, and what are your plans after your basketball's career is over, like 15 years, 20 years from now? Or
So
maybe you stay in basketball.
yeah, that's so in Akron, I have my undergrad in media studies, so kind of what you do, and then I
Ah,
also have my MBA. So I have my
nice.
master's in business administrations for just business admin. So and also and it's in interdisciplinary studies. It's a wide variety of business. So because I didn't want to like just choose like finance for my MBA, I wanted to get something that kind of also can help me with my own basketball career.
Right.
And then what would I be doing after basketball? I think that's the part I'm trying to figure out right now. But I definitely see myself. I'm definitely going to try to help my community, especially with what I've been able to. That's something that I have recognized now with what I've been able to accomplish. I think I can do a lot to help other people. So that's definitely something I want to do. And my own part of what I want to truly do, who knows? I don't know yet, but that's a work in progress.
Right. You're still a very young man, so you don't have to worry about it right now. Well, Enrique, I want to thank you for joining your show. Your story is inspirational, truly, truly. I mean, I think it's something like that maybe one day you might want to write a book about or something.
No,
To go.
definitely. I need a Netflix series.
There you go. There you go. And I wish you the best moving forward. And please, stay in touch and come back and visit us. We'd love to hear how you're doing. Maybe next year, next summer, sometime we could sit down and talk again, and you could talk about your journey.
Yes, I love that.
All right. Thanks so much, Enrique.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. It was great talking to Enrique. Really happy to have him on the show. What a great story he has. All right, so we're going to wind up the show with our Olympic hoops previews. And basically, for whatever reason, I don't know why, because, for example, football, when I say football, I mean soccer, has 16 teams. So basketball only has 12. Don't know why, because there's a lot of great teams that aren't in this field, including Lithuania, Croatia, Latvia, Slovenia. I saw Slovenia get pounded by Greece, but it was played in Greece to qualify for the Olympic tournament, and the crowd was overwhelming. It was truly home field or home court advantage. Same thing with Latvia. I saw them get beat by Puerto Rico, but the game was played in Puerto Rico. So again, huge home court advantage. So some good teams aren't here. I wish this field was 16, but as it is, we'll look at each group one at a time, and we're going to have a little contest. We'll have Cam, I guess, fill in his picks later. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick the winner of each group, and we're also going to pick a wild card team. And that wild card would be because basically 8 teams are going to make it to the knockout round. So you'll have the 3 winners, and you have the 3 winners and then 5 wild cards. So I don't know. Probably it's the first 2 teams in each group. So that will give you 6. And then you'll have 2 wild cards. So 2 third-place teams are going to make it in these groups. But what I'm asking you, if they weren't a group winner, which of the teams that you're not picking to win your group do you think will advance the furthest? And all right, so let's start with Group A, and I think this is probably the toughest group overall. It has Australia, Canada, Greece, and Spain. To me, Greece is probably the least powerful team. The only player that most Americans would know, of course, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Spain has players like Sante Adama, Usman Gruba, Willie Hernan Gomez, and also his brother Hancho. Of course, Australia has a lot of familiar names like Dyson Daniels, Matthew Dellavedova, Dante Exum, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, Jock Landale, all guys that were in the NBA or are. Oh, Joe Ingles made the team. Ben Simmons, obviously noticeably absent again. So Jake, who do you like in this region? And is there any teams? I think this is the most balanced region from top to bottom. And any teams you think have an outside chance to sneak in for a medal?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is the most balanced. I mean, look at across the board. There's a ton of NBA and ex-NBA guys on this team. I didn't know Rudy Fernandez was still playing for this team. That's news.
He's
That's
retiring.
News.
This is it.
Yeah. The last hurrah. Wow. Okay, good for him. I went with Canada. It's too much talent, especially at the guard spot for this team.
Yeah.
Jay Gilgeous-Alexander, R.J. Barrett, Jamal Murray, Andrew Nembhard, who just got paid. There's so much shooting and talent and playmaking between those guys that I'm gonna roll with Canada. But Spain is interesting and Australia is interesting too. I think this will be the most competitive easily of the three groups. I'm gonna roll with Canada to win this group though, but Australia's got not only a lot of NBA guys, but a lot of Olympic experience on this team as well with the Patty Mills, with the Dellavedova. So I think Australia maybe is a sleeper, but I'm gonna roll Canada.
All right. A little note here about Rudy Fernandez, since he is retiring. My first ever interview at Hoops Prospects was Jonah Radbaugh, who started in Germany after he graduated from North Colorado, did really well there, then signed it to play in Spain. And he's been in Spain for the last 2 years. His team surprisingly ended up playing Real Madrid in the Spanish finals this year. And so I watched all the games. And Rudy came off, I think it was best of 5. And Rudy came off the bench game 2, which is played at Real Madrid's place. And he scored like 15 points, like from the end of the third quarter to the end of the third to the into the fourth quarter. And it was just like Rudy of old, and that was going to be his last home game ever. And the game kind of got stopped, and the crowd just all got up and it clapped, and it was kind of hard to not tear up. So this will be his last hurrah in basketball as a player. So it was enjoyable to watch you play, Rudy. Sergio Lobo, he's like 86 years old and can still make the most amazing plays for Spain. Drew, what do you think about this group?
Yeah, again, I'll agree with everything you said. I think it's the most balanced group. It's probably, the most notable group in terms of just the name recognition. You go down the list and you're just seeing all these NBA names highlighted or big international names like a Rudy Fernandez, who, like, if you are a basketball person, you are familiar with. Going back, I remember when he was giving Team USA, the Redeem Team, all sorts of fits back in 08, and I was like, who is this guy? But I'm going to go with Canada as well. To me, it comes down between Australia and Canada. I think, Australia for a long time, I think the casual American, it's usually always been Spain and Australia are like the two biggest threats. The Australian team is, getting a bit older. You guys, guys like Patty Mills and Dellavedova and Ingles, guys who've been, kind of mainstays there, are getting up there. Patty Mills still doing it though. I think they beat France, and I think he went for 24. So, if you got it, you got it. But I think it boils down to, I look at these teams, both of them are more centered on guys on the wing. Like, their top players are kind of guards and wings, and Canada's got better guards and wings. I mean, they've got Shea, they've got Jamal Murray. I'm a huge Andrew Nembhard guy, as you guys know. Beyond the Gonzaga thing, I thought at that time he was the best point guard in the country when he came out. I thought he was totally worth being a first-round pick. Andrew, I'm glad you got paid. And then you look at the bigs, and it's like, yeah, Jock Landale's been solid, but, like, okay, they've got Trey Lyles, they got Olynyk, they got Dwight Powell. I just think there's just more talent. And then the strength of Australia is also the strength of Canada, and Canada's better. So I'll take Canada. But I could totally see Spain or Australia making a bit of a run. Spain, maybe they rally behind a Rudy's last, kind of swan song. They have talent, they have experience. This isn't going to be they're not going to be intimidated or back down. And the same can be said for Australia. But I'll go with Canada on this group.
All right. I got to agree with you guys about Canada, just too much. I think the lack of front court size is probably going to, beside Olynyk and, you have Lyles and Powell who are so. I'm not too impressed with their guys in the paint, but they really have a lot of talent at the guard spots. So I think they're going to win this group. It's a tough call between Spain and Australia. Australia has all the guard play, and Spain has all the front court play. So I kind of lean towards Spain, but that's just a gut feel. Just because of these guys, a lot of these guys are kind of near the end of their career, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a sentimental run at a medal. But I have nothing to back that up. other than a gut feel. All right, so we'll move on to Group B, and that's headlined by the reigning World Cup champions, Germany, followed by France, Brazil, and Japan. I think France and Germany would generally be considered the favorites here, though France, a lot of the talent that we've been talking about, coming from France is not on this team because they're just too young, too inexperienced. Bilal Koulibaly and Victor Wembanyama are on the team, but the other notable names that you would probably know would be Batum, Rudy Gobert, Frank Ntilikina, and some other guys that got a cup of coffee in the NBA. Oh, Evan Fournier is on the team. So the difference is between the disappointing French World Cup team and this team is Wembanyama. He didn't play in the World Cup, so it should be interesting. Germany basically brings back the same bunch of guys who won the World Cup, and that's, guys like Isaac Bonga, Daniel Tice, Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner, Dennis Schroeder. Oscar da Silva is on the team. That's Tristan da Silva's older brother. But Tristan obviously probably wanted to focus on maybe, who knows, maybe they wouldn't let him play. I don't know if they can do that, but anyway, he chose, a lot of rookies are choosing to focus on their NBA careers as a rookie. Zach Edey said that. He said he wanted to, that's why he's not playing for Canada. He said he wanted to focus on, getting his NBA career off to a right start. Brazil, I'd say the biggest names there are Gui Santos, plays for Golden State, and Bruno Caboclo, who played in the NBA, I think played the longest stint with Toronto. He's still a talented forward, and he does pretty well in international play. Japan has all kinds of little guys that could shoot from just about anywhere, including Kasei Taminaga coming out of Nebraska. And they also have guys you'll recognize from the NBA, and Rui Hachimura and Yoda Watanabe. And then they also have center Josh Hawkinson, who I have a feeling isn't completely 100% Japanese with that name. But I did see Josh play in the World Cup, and he really tremendous rebounder. I had never heard of him before the World Cup, and I was really impressed with his play. So yeah, Japan could pull off an upset here or there. So we'll start with you, Drew. Who do you like coming out of Group B? And is there any team here that you think might sneak in for a medal?
I think this is more of a two-horse race. I think Germany and France, just kind of scrolling down, kind of a little quick cheat sheet, I think we all kind of in agreement. Those are the two teams. I'm going to lean Germany. I'd probably would take Germany as probably the second best team if the younger Da Silva, and I noticed I surprised Hartenstein's not playing. Do we know why?
Yeah, I've never seen him play for the national team. So maybe he doesn't, some guys who have, I don't know, but he's definitely has a German background and he started in Germany. I don't know why he's not on this team.
If those two are on this team, I think this, in my opinion, would probably be the second. I'd probably put them as the second best team.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they just have enough to edge out France. I know France, everyone's going to look at Wembanyama, and rightfully so. But I think, if you get past him, the rest of the roster, okay, Batum and Fournier were really solid NBA guys 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to be a big Rudy Gobert guy. I mean, I think his game fits even better to the international game than it does the NBA, for sure. But still, can he be the guy to, lead you? I don't know. I'm really high on Koulibaly as a prospect. I think the physical tools are off the chart, and I think he's made of the right stuff in terms of his competitive fire. But I still think he's probably an Olympics away from being a really big factor. I could see him in the next go around being kind of the Robin to Wemby's Batman kind of thing. I just look at this Germany team. They're confident. They just gave Team USA a run after beating Team USA. They've got NBA guys. I mean, Franz just signed that big contract. I was really high on him coming out of Michigan. I always crack up when you have a guy it's so funny because you got a guy like Dennis Schroeder, who's kind of just a career solid low end starter, high end bench guy, and he gets to a world stage, and all of a sudden you're like, dude, is he the best point guard in the country, in the world? Like the way he plays. So I'm gonna go Germany here. I think this is a 2-horse race. I firmly believe that Wembanyama could 100% just go Superman mode and take over and dominate this group and be a force and carry the team for sure. I mean, I believe the same about Jokic, so we'll get to Serbia later. Like, I think the talent there, but Germany to me is just a little bit deeper. I just wish the other De Silva, Tristan was there, and Hartenstein, they were there. I think they'd be the second best team pretty clearly. I would definitely give the USA a run.
Yeah, I agree. And even so, they're going to give they're probably going to be, they're definitely a medal contender.
I actually went with France. I kind of didn't want to. I wanted to go with Germany, but Drew, the fact that Wemby's there, like, is going to steer me in the direction of France here. Here's the thing. I think back to last Olympics, and Team USA and France had a pretty close game in the gold medal game, and what happened? They couldn't rely on Evan Fournier or Frank Ntilikina, who nobody's afraid of shooting the 3 ball to get them a bucket late. I think that will bite them later. I don't think it'll do it now. So I'm going to take France very closely over Germany. I don't have them winning the whole thing, spoiler alert, but I do think they'll get out of this group with the Twin Towers, with Gobert and Wemby taking a bunch of balls off the rim, and Wemby, first Olympics as an NBA player, showing out and carrying them. Potentially, how about this prediction? Wemby's not even a prediction. This might not even be a hot take. Wemby's the best guard on this team.
Actually, that totally is a valid counter to me being like, I'm not a Batum Fournier. I don't know, like, to go like, well, Wemby could just pop out on the perimeter and do it himself. I wouldn't be shocked. We saw him go toe to toe with Jokic, just step back 3 earlier in exhibition play. So I mean,
yeah. Hence, I'm taking France. Kind of don't want to, but I'm going to.
It's funny you say that, because when I struggle between Germany and France, and just like I did in the World Cup. And what I think killed France in the World Cup was lack of good point guard play. Tony Parker's no longer there. And so I think it's really going to come down to how well Koulibaly plays, because Matt Strazel, who's one of their options at point guard, is like 5'10", and he's really a gunner, a chucker. And I think the other one is Albisi is their other point guard option. And DeColo point guard, but he's ancient. So I think Koulibaly, a lot rests on his shoulders. If he can be a good playmaker for the bigs, because I definitely think France has Germany in the front court. So
can I say one more thing here?
Sure.
Just if you're a college basketball sicko, and just a basketball sicko like I am, like, I had so much fun just reading down the list of these guys and being like, oh, Nando De Colo, he's got to be pushing 40, right? He's got to be up there. But a name that stuck out to me with this group, as this is a process name that only like the OG, like elite process Sixers fans know. Matthias Lesor. Yeah. Was like an early second-round pick in like 2014 or 2015. I don't think he played summer league.
He's about 28, 29 years old now.
Yeah, he's got to be up there, because they drafted him. He was a draft and stash guy. He came over and played summer league a year or two, because I was there and watched him. But yeah, I like enjoyed just going down these names. I saw Matthias Lesor. I hadn't seen that name in a while.
He's he's a good European player. He's a great rebounder, good defender, athletic big. So yeah. All right. So now we're gonna move on to Group C, and that features Puerto Rico, South Sudan, Serbia, and the United States. Puerto Rico was in the World Cup, and they're led by Jose Alvarado. Some other names you might recognize be Tremont Waters, George Condit, who played very well, has been playing very well in the G League. I think he played well in Summer League too. Devon Reed, who never quite caught on. He was a second-round pick of, I forget, but never quite caught on. But good international player. South Sudan, you know what I found interesting about South Sudan is none of the Maker brothers made the team. They were among the final cuts. So was JT Thor, plays for the Magic. And so was Kawat Noi, who's a very good player in the Australian League. None of these guys made the South Sudan team, which tells you about some of the talent that might be on this team. But they are led by Carlik Jones out of Louisville and Peter Yoke. He played in Iowa. He's a shooter. He's a scorer. And then they have Wayne and Gabriel out of Kentucky. And Mario Shayak, a former draft pick of the Sixers, Jake. He's on the team, and he's a really, really good G League player. But the guy I want to see is who made the team as a 17-year-old, I believe, and that is Kaman Maluwach, and he is an incoming freshman at Duke, probably headed to be a lottery pick. If I would have put him on our draft board this year, he would have probably been probably in the somewhere between 60 and 30. And that's because he's 17 years old and very inexperienced. But trust me, everyone liked Komchi, who was a draft pick of the Raptors. This guy is they both play. Oh, by the way, he's not on the South Sudan team either. Actually, I don't know if Komchi is from the Sudan. But anyway, Malawach, I really like this guy's game. He kind of plays like Sar does. He's a 7-footer who likes to, handle the ball. But to me, he seems to have more ability than Sar to do that, even at 17. But of course, I'm watching him play in like the African League or in the he's out of the NBA Academy in Africa. So I'm not seeing him against the best competition. That's why I'm so excited to see South Sudan. I want to see.
For what it's worth, he actually had some moments against Team USA. And I know it's an exhibition, but I was like, oh man, obviously Cooper Flag is the prize, but I was like, this kid might just be a problem because he totally held his own going up against the likes of Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis. I mean, he didn't dominate, but I mean, he did not look lost. He did not look overmatched. He did not look like completely intimidated. I was impressed from what I saw. It was my first time seeing him play.
I saw him. My first time seeing him play was when I was watching the national team in World Cup and World Cup qualifiers when Komchi, the center that was drafted by the Raptors, and who did I end up watching? But this guy was Kaman or Kamon, and he is like so much better. I mean, it just pops on the court that he was like the best player on the floor. So really excited to see him. Okay, so now Serbia. Serbians, I have a Serbian friend, and Serbians have been saying, wait till we get the Joker. Well, now they have the Joker, and we shall see. Nikola Jovic from the Heat has had some kind of an foot issue, so he's a little iffy for the tournament. But of course, they have Vasily Mikic, Filip Petrusev, another Sixers draft pick. They have Nikola Milutinov, who was a first-round draft pick of the Spurs, still only 29, and a stud in EuroLeague play. And, he's played in different other leagues, but he's always in EuroLeague play. And, of course, they have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who basically in World Cup play was their point guard. And he was outstanding. Serbia, of course, was the runner-up to Germany. They lost to Germany in the finals. And then, of course, we have the United States team. So I don't know where we left off. I guess I'll start with Jake. Jake, who do you like in this region? It seems like Puerto Rico's probably in the South Sudan are probably bringing up the rear and leaving it to possibly the two best teams in the same region in Serbia and the United States.
Yeah, I would agree. So I'm going to roll Team USA. Serbia is certainly up there as well. now that Bogdanovic is going to play, because he did not play in the exhibition, correct? He is going to play now. So now
Are
that they have.
Are you talking about Joker?
No, I'm talking about Bogdanovic.
Oh, I didn't know he didn't play.
I don't
I know.
believe he played in that exhibition.
Okay.
But regardless, like Team USA, Serbia is still the two best teams here. You just look at the roster like against the three others that we have in this region and like this group, and it's impossible for me not to say Team USA. They have the size, the scoring to really go up and dominate with anybody, I think. And I know they're like, oh, they're playing close games, this and that. Like last couple Olympics, I feel like that's kind of been a thing, and they've still come out on top. So I'm going to roll with Team USA here. But yeah, how about Filip Petrushev? You have a Gonzaga guy and you have an OG Process Sixers guy, all mashed up in the one, so everybody can be happy. Name I saw is so a couple from Puerto Rico. Gian Clavel is a name I haven't heard in a long time. Aleem Ford from Wisconsin is a name I haven't heard in a very long time.
Stephen
but how about
Thompson from Oregon State?
Yeah. George Condit, who just finished up at Iowa State. But how about Uros Plavsic from Serbia? If this guy has to get in the game and defend Embiid, he might foul out in like 6 minutes if he ever has to defend this guy.
It's going to be the most violent 6 minutes in Olympic history.
You're right. I've never seen
blood.
a more aggressive player in any level of basketball than Euros.
Yeah. So I honestly, if Serbia is playing Team USA, it might even be wise to just sit Joel Embiid. Or if at least I was Daryl Morey, I think I'd be pounding. He probably doesn't know who that guy is, Plavsic, but I think I would be like, hey, maybe we should rest this guy rather than potentially get him hurt. Because this Plavsic guy, I mean, he'll clothesline somebody and then throw his arms up at the ref like he did do. Seriously, I saw him play when he was at Tennessee. They were playing Maryland at the Barclays Center 2 years ago. And it was like number 7 versus number 13. Really good, like top 15 on both sides. I think it was Willard's first year. And like he just like roughhouses everybody. Like sets violent screens. Like when they played Duke, like he just like shoved Filipowski in the tournament.
He personally intimidated Duke.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping he gets in the game because he's gonna foul out in record time if he's got to play against Embiid. But these international refs will probably let him play. Maybe that's not the case.
He'll get 1 or 2 free ones. He'll get the first 1 or 2 free, and then the whistle's going to come out. But
yeah. But I'll roll. That being said, I'm going to roll Team USA.
All right, Drew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're spoiled here. Obviously, we're so used to basketball is our sport. Men's, women's, doesn't matter. 40, the world is catching up. NBA players are starting to spread out and they can't make Team USA, so I'm gonna go play for another country, and you're starting to see that. I'm gonna roll with Team USA as well. At the end of the day, they've had these close games. Kevin Durant, who is probably the greatest mismatch in the history of the sport, hasn't suited up yet. If he does get healthy and does get out there, he's just a nightmare for anybody. You still have LeBron James, you still have Steph Curry. It's interesting, guys like Devin Booker, I always question their fit on a Team USA when you have a guy that your one thing and your one wiring is scoring, and you're not the guy to do that on a team. Like, what else does he really bring? He's not really a playmaker. He's not a defender. He's not a rebounder. That's where I think some of the questions lie. But I mean, you still have some of the alpha of alphas in the sport. You got to go with them until proven otherwise. I'm not going to be edgy and go pick another team just to be spiteful or, whatever. I kind of going on the point. Serbia, I actually picked them as my wild card team. A lot of that is because of Jokic. I firmly believe he is the best player on the planet. The guy has no fear of anybody on Team USA. There's nobody in this tournament he looks at and goes, I don't know. He will thoroughly dominate anybody Team USA puts on him. Thoroughly dominate any team puts on him. He's surrounded by talent that has been there. They are big. They are physical. They are going to come after you, which I think the key to beating a Team USA is you have to go out there and punch them in the mouth and force them to respond to the challenge and see if they're up to it. Because when you put that pressure on them, they're the ones carrying the weight of we're Team USA. And I think Jokic is the perfect guy to do that. So I will roll with Team USA. You're kind of the kings until you're proven otherwise, but I think this Serbia team is super dangerous, and a lot of that goes back to the fact that you have the apex predator in the basketball world on your team.
Right. I am picking Serbia to win this group. And I think they're going to catch Team USA the first time. But if they meet again, Team USA will pick in the knockout round. Team USA will pay them back. Now, the one thing I don't like about this Serbian team is they don't have a lot of guards, or they don't have a lot of talented guards. So that's going to leave a lot of playing time for Mikic and Bogdanovic at the guard spots. I mean, you look at the talent of this roster; they're all like 6'10" and above. Beside those two guys, you have Jokic, you have Jovic, you have Mulanatov, you have Petrusev, and then you have Euros. I mean, that's 5 guys right there that are 6'10" and up. You can't play all those guys at once. So this team is top heavy. So I think they catch Team USA the first time, but then Team USA ultimately will pay them back in the knockout round. So to summarize our picks, we're all in Group A picking Canada. And Group B, Drew and I are picking Germany. Jake's picking France. And Group C, Drew and Jake are picking Team USA. I am picking Serbia. And then as the top wild card, I get to pick Team USA because I don't have them winning the group. And Jake went with Germany and Drew went with Serbia. As far as the gold medal, we all have Team USA. As far as the silver medal, we all have Team Canada. And then for the bronze, we all have a different pick. Drew is Germany, Jake is France, and I am Serbia. So should be fun. All righty, so that wraps up the show this week. I want to, I actually forgot to check the mailbag. I just realized that. See if we had any questions. But if you want to send us a question for the show now that we started season 4, please do. And you can email it admin@hoopsprospects.com. We also take questions via social media on Twitter @hoopsprospects, on Instagram @thehoopsprospects, and on Facebook @hoopspros. As always, I want to thank our listeners, and I want to thank our special guest, Enrique Freeman, for joining us. If you ever miss an episode, you can always get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. We'll be back next week with a special guest, and we will start handing out our NBA off-season grades, starting with the Eastern and Central divisions. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, other than what the hell happened to Cam?
As long as he's all right, I'm good.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping I could see him again and say what's up, but we'll save it for another time. Yeah, good thing we can get our hoops fixed. Even with the Olympics, not like we have a giant lull this time around with Summer League bleeding right into it. So yeah, looking forward to Olympic basketball. Also looking forward to we're 3 Americans. Looking forward to, as we always do every 4 years, dominate the rest of the world in athletics, or whatever you may call it. Looking forward to that. I'll see you in however many weeks when we lead everybody in gold medals.
Amen, brother.
Good to have you back, Jake. All right, so that wraps it up. See you soon, folks.